everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So this is week 2 of Realmathon, and we're getting ready to start our round of Peace Talks, which means from 7 p.m. on April 8th, my time, through, it would be April 10th at 7 p.m. my time. I think that's how it works. We will be having Peace Talks, which means for every book we log and read during that time period, we gain 10 extra points for our realm. So I'm going to be trying to devour a lot of books. Earlier today, I finished The House of Always. Actually, I finished it before bed. And this is another 5-star read. I have a Beanie. Say hi, Beanie. She's not interested. I absolutely adored this book just as much as the first 3 books in the series. There were so many twists and turns in this one that I didn't see coming. I cannot wait for book 5 to see what happens next. And I think this is definitely, unless the 5th book takes a nosedive, a new favorite series of mine. I also finished The Lincoln Highway. And if you want my final thoughts on this, you're going to have to wait for one of my secret TBR vlogs, because this is a book I just remembered I'm reading for a secret TBR. I did manage to finish this. It was shortly after 7, so I didn't get it done in the time that I wanted to, but I have now finished it, which means I can focus on the books I want to read for the 48-hour readathon. So my hope is to read Homicide and Halo Halo. I actually started this while I was waiting for Rampage to start, so I'm 22 pages in. Not very far, but I did start this. And then the other books I hope to read are Starfell, Willowmoss, and The Forgotten Tale. This should only take me like an hour and a half or so, so I feel like that's a pretty easy read. I want to pick up Celtic Tales, because again, I think this is going to be a pretty quick and fast read. And I'm also hoping to get to Palace of Dreams. These are going to be my main focus. I think if I have more time, which I might, I'm not sure, but if I have more time, I'm hoping to get to the Dragonette Prophecy, because I'm going to start that over, because I literally cannot tell you anything that happened from when I started it a week ago. So nothing stuck in my head, but I should have the physical copy of that tomorrow. So I will try to squeeze that in as well. And then if I still have time, I don't know what I will read, but I'm going to try to check in a little more frequently with this one, like as I finish things. So I will have a better idea in future clips whether I'm going to get through all of this to read anything else. But I'm actually going to go do that now, because if I want to attempt to get through the stack, the sooner I start reading, the sooner I can get through the stack. So I'm going to go read. Beanie is going to continue to sleep, and we will check in with you later. So I wanted to do a quick check-in before bed, because I finished Willowmoss and The Forgotten Tale. I'm going to give this 4.5 stars. I enjoyed this even more than I enjoyed the first one. They're such quick, easy reads. I really enjoy Willow and her magic, and I enjoyed seeing some familiar characters from book 1, and I enjoyed meeting new characters in book 2. I liked how this book connected to the first book and continued the story that was being told, because I was curious how they were going to continue the story in book 2, or whether we were going to be seeing like just separate kind of self-contained tales, kind of like a cozy mystery series where you have the murder of the book, and yes, you're in the same world with the same cast of characters, but each story is in a lot of ways self-contained. And I like that this one had some threads that continued on from book 1 and set up a storyline that is very obviously going to play into book 3. So I'm really enjoying this series, and I am so glad that I decided to pick it up and give it a shot. And I'm glad that I didn't wait too long to read book 2. Though I don't know that book 3 is out in the States yet, so I may have a little bit before I can continue on with the series. But whenever I can get my hands on book 3, I absolutely will, because I'm really loving this series. So that's the first book down for the 48-hour Peace Talks, and I don't think I'm going to read anymore tonight because I'm getting kind of sleepy. So I think I'm going to go watch a few episodes of Pokemon before I go to sleep because I have been doing a Pokemon watch. I watched it when I was a teenager before school. Like, it was on as I was getting ready for school. So I used to watch it when I was in my early teens as I was getting ready for school. So I don't know how many I've seen, but I definitely have never watched them in order and watched the entire thing, though. I realized I had watched more of them than I thought I had when I watched the first episode and Team Rocket showed up, and I immediately knew what they were going to say. So I had watched enough of them that I had memorized Team Rocket's mantra and still knew it over 20 years later. So I watched a few more of those than I thought I did, but I have been really enjoying my rewatch. So I'm going to go watch a few episodes of that and then crash so that I can get up tomorrow and do some more reading. So I will check back in with you tomorrow when I finish my next book. So in my last clip, I said that I would check in tomorrow, and at the time I filmed that clip, I had every intention of doing just that. Until I didn't. It is actually now the 18th, and the last clip you saw was from April 9th. I am now turning this into a 2-week reading vlog because I honestly just completely forgot to check in. I was focused on filming some sit-down videos, which have been up on my channel, and trying to catch up with some of that. And when not doing that reading, the other thing I've been doing is trying to make a conscious effort to eat a little bit healthier because I had been not doing my best eating wise, and I felt like that was affecting my ability to focus and the energy levels I was having. And I have been on my new plan of healthy eating for a week now, and I am feeling much, much better, which is how I managed to have enough energy to film some of the videos I filmed this week, because I had definitely been feeling very low energy. So I'm going to quickly run you through everything I read because it's a lot. So I did take part in the 48-hour readathon. Last time I talked to you, I had mentioned that I had finished the second book in the Starfell series. During that 48-hour period, I also read a few other things. I read The Palace of Dreams, which is the 4th book in the Familiar series, and I think I'm going 3 stars with it. This one is tricky because it's not so much that it wasn't good, it's that it was released in 2014. And there is nothing that makes me think there is going to be a 5th book in this series. And yet there are so many cliffhangers in this book. I was very curious about this book since I thought that the first 3 felt like a trilogy. So honestly, as much as I enjoyed parts of the series, I think I would recommend, if you're going to read it, to stop at book 3, because this book, while enjoyable, leaves so many things open that until there is some sort of confirmation that there is going to be a book 5, I wouldn't recommend anybody read it because it is not a satisfying ending to the series in any way, shape, or form. I also read Homicide and Halo Halo, and this is definitely getting somewhere in the 4-star range. This is the second book in the Tita Rosie's Kitchen mystery series. I enjoyed this one even more than I enjoyed the first one, and I also enjoy that once again, in the very beginning, the author has an author's note, which gives you trigger warnings and things that they wanted you to be aware of before you dove into the book, and a glossary and punctuation guide in case there are any unfamiliar terms or foods or whatever in this book, so that you're kind of going into it with a little bit more knowledge. I really enjoy that this isn't a super light and fluffy cozy mystery series. Like, it deals with a lot of intense and deep things. So I like that that's kind of a twist on the traditional cozy mystery format. So I really enjoyed this one, and definitely will be continuing on in the series when book 3 comes out. And then I also read Celtic Tales. Some of these I enjoyed more than others. I think I'm going like 3.5 because some I was really bored for, but the ones I did enjoy, I really enjoyed. So I'm going somewhere kind of in the middle. I thought it was really neat to read about all of these classic stories from, let's see, where is it? Ireland, Scotland, Brittany, and Wales. I liked that each started with an illustration that demonstrated some point of the story. I definitely don't regret reading it, and will for sure read more in this series. I mean, not that it's like a series, but like there are other Tales stories, and I think it would be neat to read them because I like learning about other people's cultures, and this is, you know, the culture of people from Ireland, Scotland, Brittany, and Wales, and I thought that was cool, even if I didn't love every story I read. Since Peace Talks ended, I read Under Wildwood, which is the second book in the Wildwood Chronicles series, and I didn't enjoy this quite as much as book 1, but it left with a much more defined story of where, like, the plot is going to be going in book 3, whereas book 1 kind of felt like you could have just read book 1 and moved on with your life. So I am definitely planning on reading book 3. I've actually requested it from my library, so I will be reading that most likely in May so that I can finish out this trilogy and check a series off my list. But I still really enjoyed this, and I really enjoy the audiobooks too. So if you have access to the audiobooks, I would recommend them. And I was very intrigued with where this series went, even if I didn't enjoy it quite as much as book 1. I read A Biscuit, a Casket, and this is the second book in the Positively Organic series. This is a cozy mystery series, and we're following Stan, who makes, like, homemade animal food, like, for mainly cats and dogs. I don't know what other animals she has branched out for, though I think they do mention at least something else, or she's at least considering other animals. And in this book, she's hosting a doggy birthday party, and it's around Halloween time, and a body ends up being found in, like, a corn maze, and she has to try to get to the bottom of how this person died and try not to get hurt in the process. I really enjoyed this. I'm excited to be back into the series, and hopefully I can continue on with it in a timely manner, because this is one of these series I wanted to get to in 2022, I believe. So hopefully I can read more of this series soon. I read The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren, and I think I'm going 3.25 stars. Their writing style is really easy to get through, but this wasn't my favorite book. And I totally understand why it disappointed a lot of people, but I went into it with low expectations, so it actually exceeded the expectations I had. We're basically following a home renovation couple who is on the verge of breaking up, but our two main characters are like their assistants, and their assistants have to try to hold this couple together while they do like a press tour. And I just did not like all of the drama. It wasn't for me. So I definitely will read more from Christina Lauren in the future, though. This book just wasn't my favorite. Then I also read Neverseen. I've done a lot of reading. I really lost myself in some books this week. So Neverseen, the fourth book in the Keeper of Lost City series. This was a reread. I still really enjoyed it. Again, it is interesting to see when things happen in the series, because there are so many things that are so significant that it is interesting to see what order they happened in, because, like, I can remember all the significant moments, but I don't necessarily remember the order they happened in. And it was interesting reading this book, especially knowing things I know now. because there were certain things in this book that, based on things I now know, are interesting with hindsight. So that was kind of fun. And I'm still really enjoying my reread and can't wait to read book 5 in May. And that's all of the books I finished. Now, as for books I have made progress on, I've made progress on the Seventh Lady Hardcastle mystery, and I should be finishing that this week. I think I have around an hour left in the audiobook, so I should be finishing that soon. Oh, I almost forgot because I don't have a physical copy. I read Wayward Spirits, which is the second book in the Witches of Palmetto Point series, which I was reading for Try Again Author, because this was a book I had temporarily DNF'd because I was reading it at the wrong time, and I read this basically in one sitting. I devoured it. It was really, really good. I really do believe that I was just in the wrong headspace at the time that I tried to read it the first go-round. So that was another series I believe was on my series I want to catch up on in 2022. So I made some progress on that, and hopefully we'll be able to stick book 3 of that on my May TBR so I can kind of keep the ball rolling. Now, back to books that I'm in the midst of. I started Aurora Rising today, and I'm on page 240, so I'm making some decent progress. This is a reread, and I'm enjoying it. I'm really glad that I picked this back up before I read Aurora's End, because I had not realized how many details I had forgotten. So I'm really glad I decided to do a reread of the series and didn't just pick up book 3. I'm enjoying getting to see how the story comes together and how this misfit group of individuals is interacting, because you're basically like, I love, this is one of my favorite book descriptions, because it's talking about how one of our main characters, Tyler, is supposed to be recruiting the squad of his dreams, but gets sidetracked, and it ends up leaving him with the dregs: a cocky diplomat with a black belt in sarcasm, a sociopath scientist with a fondness for shooting her bunkmates, a smart-ass tech whiz with the galaxy's biggest chip on his shoulder, an alien warrior with anger management issues, a tomboy pilot who's totally not into Ty, in case you were wondering. And then, of course, the girl, Ari, who he was distracted by because she is over 200 years old and had been in a cryosleep, and he ended up rescuing her. So it really is about this misfit group of individuals who has to try to work together, and that is one of my favorite tropes of, like, this group of people who shouldn't be together or get along or have anything in common kind of coming together and fighting for a common cause. And so I'm really, really enjoying my reread of this. So you can see the stack here is getting quite high. I started The Bone Ship's Wake last night, and I made it 34 pages in. Boy, does this one start off with a bang. My biggest complaints for the first 2 books was that they were a little slow, and it took me a little bit to get into them, but not this one. I legitimately forced myself to put this down because the words were swimming on the page. So I definitely think this one started off with a much bigger bang, and I'm quite curious to see what's going to happen given the way this started, because that is not at all how I expected this book to kick off. And then the last update I have is that I've started Tristan Strong Keeps Punching. I'm 26 pages into this, so not very far at all. And I don't really have much more to say on it because, again, I'm only 26 pages in, so don't have an opinion yet. But hopefully I can finish, before this vlog is out, the Seventh Lady Hardcastle, Tristan Strong, The Bone Ship's Wake, and Aurora Rising. That's my goal anyways. We'll see. It's going to depend on how much time I get to read and how much quiet time I get to read, because I don't have an audiobook for this. And because it is adult fantasy, I have to make sure that it's quiet enough that I can concentrate, because I really struggle with adult fantasies of retaining everything and taking everything in if it's not quiet enough. So we'll see. I have a just giant stack of books here. These are all the books I've read since I last talked to you, or started in the case of these 3, but I think that's it for my update. I don't think I've forgotten anything, and hopefully I will check back in with you before Thursday night when I wrap this up, because it's only Monday, but we'll see. I've been very inconsistent with my vlogging. I'm going to hopefully get better with that, but I'm trying to roll with my mental health here and not do anything that is going to make a bad situation worse. So I will check in with you soon, whether that is before Thursday night or not. I'm definitely not making this as a 3-week vlog, so you'll see me Thursday night at the latest to wrap this vlog up. But in the meantime, I'm going to go, well, read, because I have several books I'm in the midst of that I'm enjoying that I would really like to finish. So I'll check back in with you soon. It is now Friday morning, and it is time to wrap this vlog up after a very long 2 weeks with a lot of reading. So, I forgot to mention in my last clip that I read Big Lies in a Small Town. This is a dual timeline historical fiction set around a mural. We see the woman painting it in the past, and then in present day, we see somebody restoring this mural. And I'm going to give this, I think, 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed this. I liked getting to figure out how the mural came together in the past, and then seeing Morgan, our main character in the present day, make discoveries about this mural as she restored it back to its former glory. This is the second book I read by Diane Chamberlain, and I really enjoyed both of them, so I definitely see me reading more from her in the future. I finished my reread of Aurora Rising and absolutely loved it just as much as I did the first time. I definitely am glad that I chose to pick it up and refresh myself on the details, because there was a lot of stuff that had kind of fled my mind in the space between when I read it the first time and now. I'm really excited to be reading book 2 in May, and then hopefully finishing out the trilogy finally with book 3 in June. But very enjoyable reread. Love getting to hang out with this band of misfits, and I look forward to rereading the second part of their journey. I read the entirety of the Dragonette Prophecy yesterday, actually. This is a book that follows different clans of dragons, and our main character is a Mudwing. And he is part of this prophecy, and he's being brought up with different dragonettes from the other clans, and they're supposed to kind of bring peace to the land, and they've never really known like life outside of the cave where they've lived. And it is interesting to see their journey because they've never really experienced the world. So they're not quite sure how they're supposed to bring peace and stop a war and fulfill this prophecy that was made about them. I quite enjoyed the way this story was set up. I liked getting to be introduced to the world and the different kinds of dragons. So our main character is Clay, and like I said, he's a Mudwing, but he's being brought up with 4 other dragonettes from the different clans. We have Starflight, who is a Nightwing, Tsunami, who is a Seawing, Sunny, who is a Sandwing, and Glory, who is a Rainwing. And one of their caretakers is Kestrel, who is a Skywing. And so we get to see various dragons from the different tribes of dragons, and I think it gives us an interesting look into how each dragon differs from one another and like their strengths and weaknesses, even though in the regular world the dragons live with, you know, dragons of their own kind. So these dragons are a little peculiar because they've been brought up very different to the way they would have been brought up if they had been brought up with their own kind. And I think it is a very smart way to kind of introduce us to all the different kinds of dragons while still making it really easy to follow along. I really like the bond the 5 dragonettes had and the lengths they were willing to go to for one another. And I'm definitely curious as to where things are going because there were certain things set into motion at the end of this book that make book 2 very interesting. So I will definitely be continuing on with this series. And our author, Tude T. Sutherland, is one of the people who writes under the pseudonym Aaron Hunter. And as you all know, I love Aaron Hunter's works. So I'm really glad I enjoyed this one too. And I finished one more book, which is The Fatal Flying Affair, which is the 7th book in the Lady Hardcastle mystery series. This wasn't my favorite mystery in the series. I just didn't get into it quite as much as I did the others, but I still enjoy the banter between Lady Hardcastle and Flo. And there were definitely some twists and turns I wasn't expecting. There were some things that kind of came out of left field in this one. As I said, I wasn't as into this case as I was with other mysteries they've solved in the past, but I'm still enjoying this series and plan to continue it. As for books I'm in the midst of, I'm still working on Tristan Strong. I had hoped to finish this yesterday, but then I realized my audiobook for the Dragnet Prophecy was going to be returned yesterday, so I devoured that instead. I am on page 174 now, so I'm making decent progress. I think this so far is shaping up to be my favorite of the 3 Tristan Strong novels, though, again, I'm still like halfway through it, so that could change, but I think this is the one I have enjoyed the most. There is a lot going on in this one that I can't really comment on because spoilers, but I'm curious to see how Tristan works his way out of the situation he's found himself in, where we're at this point in the book. And I'm glad that I decided to pick this up, even though I wasn't necessarily super jazzed going into it because it wasn't my favorite of the Rick Riordan Presents series, and that's the prompt I'm reading this for. So I am glad I ended up picking this one up, and I'm curious to see how Tristan's story ends. I also made progress on The Bone Ship's Wake. I am now on page 234. So again, decent progress with this. This book is still going in all sorts of directions I wasn't expecting based on where book 2 ended. It has definitely gotten to the point where I don't want to put it down once I picked it up. Like, honestly, I thought it would be easier to put this down so that I could pick up something like Tristan, which is a faster read, but I keep picking this up and not wanting to put it down and going, okay, one more chapter and then I'll go edit or eat or do whatever, and I end up reading more than one chapter. So I'm definitely into this, and I'm very curious as to how the series is going to resolve itself since this is the last book in the trilogy. And then the last book I have started is The Rose Code, and I won't be talking much about this because it's part of a secret TBR, but this is a historical fiction, and it's about code breakers during World War II. So you'll have to wait for one of my secret TBR videos to come out for my thoughts on this. I'm like 50 pages into it, so I still have quite the ways to go on this one. So that's it for this extended reading vlog. Hopefully I will be able to do better next week with checking in. Like I said earlier, I think in this video, I am working on changing some of my eating habits because I know that I wasn't eating the best, and when I don't eat the best, I don't tend to have a lot of energy. Especially as somebody who does not eat meat, I know that if I don't eat protein, I feel like crap. And I was definitely not eating enough protein. So I've hopefully corrected that and will have more energy so I can be more present with filming and editing and all of that kind of stuff. But that's it for this week's reading vlog. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me a rose emoji. All of my social media, including my Discord, is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!